Jayak, Minot National Dek Browning Neddeau Nejtikast, Panazwani National Minozwin, Neddeau, Shishibinek, and Nibidogwis. Hello, everyone. We all come here with good thoughts. My name is Browning Neddeau. Panazwa is my Potawatomi name. I am Potawatomi. I'm enrolled in the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. I'm so pleased to be here, surrounded by so many wonderful people, and to be following my dear friend Kathy in storytelling is just an honor. Um, I join you today from the homelands of the Machupta Indian tribe of Chico Rancheria. I am a guest to this land. I invite you to type in the chat box the land you are joining us from today. So many different beautiful places that we're all visiting from, yet we all come to this place together to share time together. My tribe, the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, has our reservation in present-day Oklahoma. But that's not where our story started, but that's for another time. There are Potawatomi people that live throughout the world. Our very existence is resistance to the inaccurate narratives that speak of my tribe, my people, my family, and me in past tense. I speak to you today and tomorrow my tribe, people, family, and I will be here to continue our cultural ways of knowing and doing. Survivance is tied not only to the stories we are told, but the stories that we tell. I would like to thank the conference organizers and my colleagues throughout the world who have worked to bridge research to practice in storytelling. I thank my colleagues who contributed their stories to the book Becoming Transformative Storytelling for Education's Future, as we learn from each other about the world in which we live. Our stories are not isolated events. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors as we share stories with future generations, sharing lessons and wisdom from those that came before us. Additionally, Brayboy's tribal critical race theory reminds us that stories are valid sources of data, and we've heard stories today that remind us of this as well. So if someone tells you that your story is inaccurate or your story isn't true, then you might remind them that you've never asked them to tell your story for you. Before I dive too deeply into my time with you today, I would like us to honor the names of individuals who have walked on, passed away due to complications from COVID-19. Let's share their names in the chat box, please. When we breathe these names, we are acknowledging their lived experiences, relationships, memories made, stories shared, stories that continue to live within you. Each name that was shared in the chat box has a story. You carry on their spirit in the stories you tell. The next time you read a book, ride a bicycle, tie your shoe, or tell a story, you might have a story connected to each experience. For instance, do you use certain words in conversations? Why do you use such words? The why is your story. Native scholar Thomas King wrote in his book, The Truth About Stories and Native Narrative, that, quote, the truth about stories is that's all we are, end quote. The pandemic, sheltering in place, keeping socially distant from our friends and relations, and wearing masks to protect ourselves and others, all are part of our stories of today. On April 2nd, 2020, there were 81,400 cases of COVID-19 worldwide. 81,400 cases worldwide. I think of that and I look at the numbers today and it's just mind-blowing. Unfortunately, COVID-19 would cut short the lives of thousands of other individuals in the months to follow. It was in April that I turned to storytelling as a way to understand the world, or at least try to understand it a little bit more. I invited my friends on Facebook to come share or hear stories together. The event grew, and within 2 weeks of proposing my virtual storytelling idea on Facebook, 174 people responded to attend what is now known as the Virtual Storytelling Event, VSE. I have now hosted 5 VSEs with tellers and listeners joining from around the world, all gathering to understand, find comfort, and maybe, just maybe, heal through stories. As the VSE has evolved, it has included oral and visual storytellers. Visual storytellers submit original works of art that were created during the pandemic. The artist submits a brief description of the artwork. The artwork and description are included in a digital program for the VSE. More recently, the VSEs also include inviting all participants to share a 6-word story. This could be about their lived experiences during the pandemic or a reaction to one of the oral or visual stories in the VSE. As the VSE continues to grow, I've noticed that the event has unintentionally created an international community that looks forward to seeing and sharing space with their VSE family. It is through these shared virtual storytelling event spaces that I have not only gained a better understanding of the world, but I have also become much more connected to it. There's something special with storytelling. Storytelling is not just a time where you sit around a shkode, a fire, either alone or with your family or with your friends, looking up into the sky. And if it's a clear day when you're looking up into the sky, you might see all the fabulous stars filling the sky's canvas. As you're about to look away, you see a shooting star, which just makes you want to stay there even longer to observe the sky. You might recall star stories if you sit just a little bit longer too. Storytelling at the shkode, looking at the sky. Thinking about when we will explore Mars, realizing that the recent trip to Mars for the Perseverance rover is only part of an incredible story that continues to unfold with imagery and sounds. It's a story that we can share for generations to come. And in my tribe, shkode is very important. I'm drawn to shkode when I think about stories. We must keep the shkode burning And one way we do this is by keeping stories alive. Stories have life, and perhaps that's just one reason why they're so special. Perhaps you've noticed in my talk so far that stories and storytelling are much more than having a teller and a listener. It's much more than me telling and then you listening. Stories are interactive and require the active imagination of the teller and the listener. We build on experiences, embrace feelings, and inspire change. If you're feeling like this is too much to consider, then start with something simple, the story of your name. As you may recall from my earlier comment, the why is your story. When we think about our classrooms and the stories that our students share, it's necessary to reflect inward. Are we fostering a learning environment that is built on culturally sustaining, revitalizing pedagogies? I'm not asking if you have books and general classroom readings from different perspectives where your students can see themselves. That is culturally relevant pedagogies, which are crucial for creating a classroom where students feel seen. Culturally sustaining, revitalizing pedagogies presses us to ask the question, how are we acknowledging our students as not only consumers of culture, but builders of culture? This reflective task is important if we are seeking to embrace our students' full, authentic selves in storytelling. Intentionally encouraging stories that center your students' cultures and languages provides for a classroom that honors a rainbow of identities and expands the core of the curriculum in ways where the students and stories flourish. As we think about storytelling and its role in the lives we lead as educators, family members, community members, and a global citizenry, let's reflect on how stories provide us with wisdom. Stories also invite us to question and challenge aspects of power and privilege and how such constructs influence our lived experiences and the experiences of our students. I ask my students to question using how, why, would, could, and should. Thus, in being an educator, I'd like to end my time today by posing questions for which I seek answers. How do stories help us elevate our communities? How do stories honor the 7 generations before and after your time? Why should we lean on stories to understand the world? Why do we hear certain stories louder than other stories? And how will your stories change the world for not what it could be, but what it should be? I invite you to give yourselves a thumbs up and turn your thumbs to yourselves. You hold the pen to write your own story, and each day is a new page in your life story. And I ask you, how will you tell your story? Miigwech, thank you.